All right, let me kick it off with a couple questions. So, Travis, why don't you tell the room why you thought this was the perfect time to do 12 Monkeys and a bit about the genesis of the project?
The perfect time? I mean, I think because the audience was ready for a serialized time travel show. Something that Terry and I always wanted to do. And I think we're educated, the audience was educated now as to the intricacies of that kind of narrative style. Lost tricked everyone into doing a time travel show. About season 4, they were like, oh, by the way, we're a time travel show. And it worked really well. And I think it's always been I think, underutilized part of science fiction in television. Most of the times it was, touched by a time traveler. That sounds bad. But in which it was an episode of the week, or it was procedural, or it wasn't a continual story like a larger canvas. And the cool thing about 12 Monkeys was always, the movie was this big puzzle box. It was this great mystery. And it all kind of tied together as the audience unraveled it. And it does feel like what you get out of serialized television. So when Terry and I had written another time travel project and demonstrated we knew how to do that. And we met up with Atlas, with Chuck Rogan and Richard Suckle, who had been dying to make this into a TV show. They just couldn't figure it out. That was the genesis.
Great. Aaron and Amanda, two pretty iconic roles that you have to play. Any trepidation about that? How did you approach playing roles that had already been portrayed on a different screen?
I really I approached it the way I approach any role. It's such a daunting thing to try to fill the shoes of somebody else, particularly somebody like Bruce Willis, who was played such an iconic role. I just had to sort of push that aside and not think about that, and approach it as I do any other role, where I just want to make the character engaging and interesting and real, and make him somebody that the audience can connect to.
Oh, I agree with everything that Aaron said, and I am just going to piggyback on that and say also that while we are taking on those roles, at the same time we're sort of departing from the characters that were in just the film and taking the series down a chain of rabbit holes that the film wasn't able to portray in their finite amount of time in the film. So while we are the characters from the film, we're a reimagining and sort of expansion of those characters as well. So we're not exactly the same people.
Yeah, it's a different universe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they did better one. I've seen a lot of episodes, guys. You're going to be really excited. But let me open it up to questions from the room.
Not everybody at once.
So what similarities and differences do you expect from the movie in the TV series?
We're going to diverge pretty widely from the movie. I think you can. There's a spiritual continuity in a way. I think it feels like the movie a lot of times in that the hero is an unlikely hero. He doesn't have the best time machine to achieve this mission. There's a tinge of madness and craziness throughout the whole story, and that's kind of was one of the central sort of tenets of the movie. And it's also, in the movie, you didn't know until the end what the 12 Monkeys were, and how the virus broke out, and all of those things. And that's going to be the same kind of mystery that we're dealing with. But it wouldn't be any fun for anybody if we just did the television version of that story. So we're taking all of the elements that we kind of love, the impressions from the movie, and not the straight, checklist of story items. I think fans will be pleased with what we took and what we expanded and what we changed. I am, and I'm the biggest fan of that movie. Like, I'll fight anyone here who says So I'd lose, but I'd still try and fight you. So yeah, I think people will be happy.
Yeah, I think the pilot adheres pretty relatively closely to the movie, and then it takes a very dramatic turn, I think, right with episode 2. I'm correct, and then from there on, it's something.
Hi, Michael Human from Airlock Alpha. How difficult is it to take on a movie, or take on a series, that a lot of people are familiar with the movie? I know that it's been done successfully, just recently even with Fargo and things like that, but when you're a fan of the film, how do you as a writer, even as actors, how do you kind of really make sure you separate yourself so that, what you have the elements, if you have that weird balance, you have the elements of the movie that everybody likes, but also your own thing at the same time. Like, how do you find that, that right balance to make that work? So you have your own thing, but still, pay homage to what you're adapting.
There's a moment where you're intimidated and you're like, 12 Monkeys, that's a perfect movie. I can't do this. And then you just start writing a story, and the story becomes what it is. It becomes its own thing. And I think for these guys, it's the same thing. They get a script with characters on the page, and so Cole and Cassie are their own identities, their own entities. It's not like they have to sit there and go, but wait, this is different than the movie. Hold on. They don't call us up and say, look, I just rewatched the movie and your script is not right. And they've done an amazing job of creating very distinct characters that are unto themselves. Just like, in the Fargo TV series, I don't think anybody's angry that Billy Bob's character was not in the movie. I think that worked pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's both daunting and very exciting as a fan to get an opportunity to do something like this, because in a way you can just sort of just touch that movie that you love so much and feel like maybe you get a chance to live inside of it a little bit. But in terms of making sure that it's a different thing, it just happens naturally. You have an entirely different team, you have an entirely different cast, a creative team, and the difference is it just happens naturally. You can't help but be different.
Different storylines.
Yeah.
Ken Gold, Media Boulevard. Can you talk about how far are you into filming, and where are you filming? Which city?
Say it again.
How far are you into filming? How many episodes have you completed, or are you still working?
We are about to start filming episode 10. So
Okay.
we're on 9 now.
109.
Yeah.
And then where are you filming?
We're in Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Easy question.
Yeah, I could have answered that.
Hi, I'm a big Amanda fan. I love hearing Pretty Little Liars and something else. And how does that compare with working on a sci-fi show compared to like teen dramas and things like that?
Very different. It's very different. It's very exciting. I think the Pretty Little Liars and One Tree Hill have their own exciting storylines that are at times unpredictable and seemingly almost science fiction-esque in their unrealistic qualities. But I think this has been an incredible gift for me. The character that Terry and Travis have written in Cassandra is a dream. She's strong and smart, and she doesn't back down from a challenge. And it's a real honor to be able to play something like that, and not a woman who, when confronted with an obstacle, becomes less than. She will always stand up to a challenge. And also, the element of time travel and alternate realities, I think in a lot of ways is every actor's dream, to be able to be one character on a television show, but to have all these different incarnations of that person. And we get to go to work, and some days I'm a person living in one reality, and some days I'm a person living in another reality, so I get to try on a different suit. It's very exciting. And and hopefully it will be similar for audiences as well.
Thank you so much. I got it from this photo.
Pardon me?
I got it from this photo.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's my accent. I'm from England.
No, I have a cold. I'm sure I'm just not hearing you well.
Dibs on this photo, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Shy fans getting out. That's what we see over in England.
Oh gosh, I'm having trouble understanding.
He wants to take a photo with you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm sitting here. And I
But
got
she
that-
is sick, so don't get too close.
Yeah, don't get too. It'll be from a distance. Yes, definitely.
Well, actually, bouncing off of Amanda's comments, I mean, this is also a big head scratcher. You know, dealing with time travel can get quite confusing. So, has that been? Have you had moments on set where you're just like, all right, what? Where are we now in time, and what's supposed to be happening? Is that a good motivational tool as performers to just be confused like a time traveler might be?
No, I mean you want to avoid that for sure. But yes, it's quite confusing. Our script supervisor has her work cut out for her, just keeping track of all of these jumps back and forth to the future, and it's getting very, very complex. There's multiple versions of us running around in the same scene, so it's a job. It's a job to keep track of.
But I have to say, like, the trick that we've tried to pull off is to have the story might not be linear, and we might be messing around in time and everything, but emotionally the story is always linear, and you're following this progression. And if we didn't have these guys to be able to carry that through on an episodic basis, and the audience is never lost because they're with them emotionally. And that's why they can't be confused. We always have to tell them, this is where you are in the scene, this is what's happening, and this is where your character is and what they feel. Because as long as the audience is emotionally engaged and understanding, oh my God, they're going through this horrible thing, they've had this loss, and they moved through this territory, I think it's going to be pretty satisfying dramatically.